Hey, Be'ezus Hashem, today's daf is daf Mem Hey, and we will begin on daf Mem Dalet Amid Beis, which is about I would say 18 lines from the bottom, Itmar. Okay, Itmar, right over here. Itmar, we learned, Kitana Sheniskacha Shaloi Ladas Aviyah. A young girl, let's call her 8-year-old girl, that she went ahead and she accepted Kedushin without the knowledge of her father. Now, when her father finds out about this, so you have to learn this is the pshat in the Gemara. It's not in the Rishonim explain that when the father finds out about this, he gives the silent treatment. Okay, the Papa don't preach exactly. He gives the silent treatment. We don't know what's he thinking, and he's not talking to the girl. Okay, you have to learn that he's not talking. So, really, the right to marry a girl off is only on the father. But by him being silent, we're in a quandary over here. Maybe quietly he's thinking maybe it's not a bad idea. So Amar Shmuel said, if she wants to get out of this marriage, and tzricha get, she needs a get from this guy, utzricha mi'un, and she has to make like it's a kedushin d'Rabbanan, and announce that I don't want to be with this person. So that's a little bit two different things. He's saying you need a get and mian. You think maybe it's a kedushin daraisa, and maybe it's only a kedushin darabanan. Alma Karna. So Karna didn't understand Shmuel. He said Devarim Bagay. What Shmuel said is a mystery. In get, if you require a get, lama mian. Why should she have to do mian? In mian, if she does mian, lama get. Why does she have to do get? Mian is a form of walking out of a kedushin darabanan, as we mentioned prior to our learning. That it's if a mother married off her daughter without the father's passed away and the mother just marries off a daughter, or the mother and brother marry off a daughter, and she doesn't like the guy, she could just announce, hey, I don't want to be married to this guy, and because the whole kedushin's a drabanan, so she could walk out even without a get. But here Shmuel said the katana that got engaged without the consent of her father, and the father's now not talking. So she needs both. So they didn't understand what Shmuel said. Amar lei. So they said to Karna, let's figure this out. What Shmuel said. Ha Mar Ukva Beitina Bekafri. Mar Ukva and his court is in Kafri, probably a place, and Rav is over there probably. And so Afchu, they turned it around and they said that they sent the Shadrul Kame to Rav. They sent the question to Rav. And they said that Karna says you need get and mian, and Shmuel says you don't need anything. Why would you need a get or mian? So what's your opinion, Rav, of Katana that got engaged without the consent of her father? So Rav said, Halakim, I swear to God, so to speak, or tzricha get or tzricha mian. You need both. It's a shame that the father of Shmuel would say that you don't need get or mian. So really, actually, he did say it, but when they turned it to Rav, they turned it the other way, as if Shmuel did not say that. But both Rav and Shmuel agree now, you need get and mian. The time of my, what is the reason for that? Why would you need both get and mian? That's the question of the Gemara. Amar Rav Achabreder of Ikas, or Rav Achabreder said like this: tzricha get. Since the father's not talking, you need a get. Shemin Saratza Abe Kedushin. Maybe the father, by his silent treatment, maybe he agrees, he acquiesces to the kedushin. He doesn't mind this new son-in-law. Fine, but tzricha mian, you need mian. Shema loy nisratza abba kedushin. Maybe the father doesn't like it. Now, if you just require a get, could be this troublemaker, this guy that gave her kedushin. He's going to give kedushin to the sister. He's going to try the same shtick on the sister. And people said, oh, the kedushin wouldn't work for the sister because you got to get from the sister number one. So if you're going to give kedushin to the second sister, she could walk out even without a get. And the yaimru ain't kedushin taifsim b'chaysa, and kedushin would not work for her sister. But the truth is that if the father did not want the kedushin would work for the sister. So because of that, you have to basically announce that this get should be treated like a get d'Rabbanan, and therefore, should the guy now give kedushin to the sister, normally if it's achois grushasa, it's the sister of a woman you gave a divorce to, Kiddushin wouldn't work. But since this get was only midrabanan, because now everybody knows it's a drabanan because you said it's a miyun and you made some sort of indication that it's a get drabanan, people will know that the Kiddushin works for the sister. And you have to be concerned about that. Amar Rav Nachman, Rav Nachman said, when do you think that the father would agree with his silent treatment? If they were talking, he knew the father of the guy. They were talking shidduchim, and all of a sudden now he goes silent. So now you could assume maybe there's a good chance that he agreed to this kedushin. But if the girl comes home and says, "Oh, Dad, this is I met so and so in the street, and he gave me kedushin," that everybody agrees that maybe he would not agree, that we don't concern that the father agreed to this kedushin. Ula said, under no circumstances do you need anything, not a get, not mion. Ula says you're not worried that the father agreed to this guy, no matter what. He disagreed. So the Gemara says, Afagad the shidchu. Would Ula say that even if they were talking marriage proposals, which Ula say no, we consider it as nothing? So manda masnahot, loy masnahot. No, whoever thought that Shmuel was talking about shidchu did not learn that Ula was arguing. In other words, Ula holds that only if it's loy shidchu, if they're not talking marriage, then you don't need anything. But if it's shidchu, if it was shidchu, then he would agree to the opinion of Rav and Shmuel that you do need, if there was shidchu, then you do need get and miyan. Ike de Amri, others say like this. Amma Ula said, and this is the opinion you have to remember. Katana sheniskacha shloy ledas avia. A katana that took a kedushin without the consent of her father. You don't need anything. You got to consider it as if nothing ever happened. So now you have two opinions. Shmuel, who holds that a katana sheniskacha shloy ledas avia needs both a get and miyan, and Ula says you don't need anything. Says the question. Masa Rav Kana asked a question from a Mishnah that we learned in the beginning of Masechta Yevamos. L'kulam amesu aminon isgarshin shnimtzu aylinis surasei and mutaris. Just to bring up the picture on the screen here, we know that if Reuven has a daughter, and Shimon, his brother, marries the daughter, so Shimon married his niece, and then Shimon dies. Not only does the daughter not fall to Yibam, but the tzara doesn't, the co-wife doesn't fall to Yibam. Fine. But if Shimon gave a divorce to Rachel, or the daughter made miyun and walked out of the marriage, then when Shimon dies, the co-wife would fall to Yibam. That's what the first Mishnah in Kiddushin says, right? That's what we learned. Now, the kulam ameso aminus gaushin shenim sa'ayas or say mutaris. Then you're permitted, and actually you're supposed to do Yibam to the co-wife. Now, how does a case of a girl needing miyun in the lifetime of her father? The Kitchuman, who gave her over to the Kedushin, to the brother. If the Reuven gave his daughter over to marriage to Shimon, his brother, but Mian Sagilai, can she walk out with a Mian? Get Ma'alya Baya. She needs a perfect get because it's 100% Kedushin. Elalav, it must be that that Mishnah is talking about the Kitcha Iya Nafshe. She did it herself. So therefore, she walked out of the marriage by just doing Mian. Ukutana to buy a mian, and we see we do need mian. And Ula says, no, a katana that did it by herself without the consent of her father, she doesn't need anything. And this Mishnah seems to imply you do need mian. Answers the Gemara, Rav Kahana asked the question by himself, and he gave his own answer. Because it's talking about that, in other words, how could a katana marry herself off to a man without the consent of her father? The answer is she was married once before. Her father gave her over to marriage, a complete marriage, chuppah. And then that husband died. Now she's considered that when she goes back to her father's house, her father has no more rights over her. So she's like an orphan living in her father's house in the lifetime of her father. So she can make her own decisions. So if she decided as a katana, as an 8-year-old, now to get engaged to her uncle, and then she did miyun, that's what the Mishnah is talking about. Her father is still alive, and she did it herself. In that case, you would need miyun. Mosiv Rav Hamnuna asked the question. And Baraisa says, if a man has a daughter, you can't sell your daughter to your relatives. Let's say you can't sell your daughter for a maid, a shivcha, an amavriya, to your own son. Why? Because your own son can never do yiyud, which means to marry. The point of going of an amavriya being sold into slavery was that she would be able to marry the master. But you can't sell her to a relative because that relative, this person, will never be able to marry this amavriya. In the name of Rab Lazar, they said, you can't sell. A father could sell his daughter as an amavriya to relatives. We go to Daf Mem Hey Amar Aleph. V'shavin, everybody agrees. If a man has a daughter that's an almana, he can resell her to a kohen gadol. Even though Kohen Gadol can never do yiyud, can never marry that girl, but it's only a lav. Technically, the marriage would be effective. So therefore, the sale would be a good sale. So the Gemara zeroes in on that question, on that case. Hi Almona, a man has a daughter that's a widow. How can you have a daughter that's under 12 years old that's a widow? Hey Chadami. Elema, would you say the Kitchavia? The father gave her to marriage to somebody else. That somebody else died. Now he wants to sell her as an amavriya. Can a person sell his daughter after he gave her over into marriage? A person can't sell his daughter to a maid as a maid after he already gave her over into marriage. So it doesn't work. So how is it possible that the father has a right to his daughter to sell her over, to sell her, and she's an almana, she's a widower? Elalav must be the case that the Mishnah is talking about. The Kaddish Iyanashi, she did it by herself. The Kakarile almana, we call her an almana. So we see that the marriage is working. It's not like Ula, that's nothing. Even a girl, a katana that gives herself over into marriage, that's a good marriage. And we call her an almana. Maybe it's not a derisive marriage or whatever, but it seems that we're concerned that it might be a marriage and she's an almana. So that's why the father can sell her, because he never was the one that gave her over into marriage. She did it herself. Answers the Gemara, Amar of Namram, Amar of Yitzchak, Chacha bekedisha yud. V'alibid Rabbi Yosef Yehuda, the Amar Marish Rishonis Lav lekedushin nitnu. The case is very different. The case is like this: the girl, she was sold already as a maid, and the first master actually married her. And when he married her, he had to give her a kedushin. But not the money that he paid for her, that he gave to the father. That money is not for kedushin. That's Rabbi Yosef Yehuda. When he wants to marry her, his maid, he has to give her like a pruta. Then he died. So now she goes back to her father's jurisdiction because her father never gave her over into marriage. He only sold her as a maid. Oh, in that case, so now father, is the case, has a daughter that's a widow, so he can sell her to a kohen gadol. That's what the case is. But if she does it by herself, we don't consider it as anything. That's Ula's opinion. But again, remember, Shmuel disagrees. Shmuel holds if a girl does it by herself and the father doesn't say anything, we're concerned that maybe it is a good marriage. Maybe it's a good marriage. You need a get and miyun. Itmar, we learned a teaching. Mace. Let's say, again, the same case. A girl did it by herself and she's engaged to somebody. She accepted Kedushin as a katana. That guy died. The guy that gave her a Kedushin died. Now she's falling to this guy's brother, to Yibam. So again, we don't even know if the father wanted the first marriage. So is she really falling to Yibam? The father, his mouth is shut. You can't get a word out of him. If the brother gave her a kedushin, remember a kedushin for a yavama is called a maimer. You give and that reserves that girl for him. So then you need miyun for that maimer. If you want to get out of it, you would need miyun. And you need a get, then chalitza, we're going to learn. But if he doesn't do anything, then all you need is chalitza. Ketzat. What's the case, and how do we explain Rav? Also, b'maimer if he did a Kiddushin to her, the brother did a Kiddushin, right? He gave her a Kiddushin, she's maybe a Yavama. Tzricha get, tzricha chalitza, tzricha miyan. She needs all three things. A get, a chalitza, and a miyan if she wants to get out, if wants to be free to marry somebody else. Tzricha get, she needs a get because even if the father did not agree to the first marriage, his silence, maybe he liked the second guy, and his silence indicates that he doesn't mind that she's engaged, that she's going to fall, she's now going to get married to the second brother. So she needs a get from the of the second guy because maybe the father acquiesces to that marriage. She needs a chalitza. Maybe the father liked the first brother, and that's why she needs a chalitza. She needs a miyan. Why? Because again, this is a kedushin d'Rabbanan. Because perhaps let's say the father didn't like both brothers. He didn't like any of this family. So could be she wasn't married to any of them. And following that logic, if this Yavam, this brother who's still alive, will now give Kiddushin to this girl's sister, people say, oh, he wrote a get. So therefore, Kiddushin wouldn't take effect for this girl's sister because it's a chois grushasai. But the whole get was only the Rabbanim. And really, perhaps this get wasn't even needed, so the Kiddushin to the sister would work. So that's why you require a miyan to announce that the get was only the Rabbanim, so that people will not say this, Ein Kiddushin toifsim b'choisa, that Kiddushin doesn't take effect for her sister. Kiddushin will take effect for their sister, because the get was only Drabanan anyway. So you see what a mess this guy got in. So the case is, again, a man gave Kiddushin to this girl without the consent of the father. Father's totally silent. Then he died. His brother now gave Kiddushin to this girl. If she wants to get out of this marriage and get out of this engagement, she needs a get, chalitza, and miyan. But loy also by maimer. But if the brother didn't do any Kiddushin to her, so ain't it tzricha ela chalitza bavad. All she needs is from the Yavam is like a suffix chalitza, because we don't know if she was married to the first guy or not. The father's not saying anything. So all he does is chalitza. And what's the worst that can happen? Mine amar tiboyin ami miyan. Let's say it's a suffix chalitza, and therefore you should need miyan also. So people will know that Shem Yomer ain't Kiddushin types about chalitza. People say, oh, with chalitza. Or maybe if he would give Kiddushin to her sister, the Kiddushin will take effect. So the Gemara says, everybody knows the sister of a chalutza is only aser, is only a drabanan, and therefore Kiddushin would take effect. In other words, if a man gives a chalitza to a girl, to a lady, he can't marry that sister. Midoraisa he could, and if he would give that sister Kiddushin, it would work. Midrabanan we say we shouldn't marry. So everybody knows that. And therefore, nobody's going to say that Kiddushin wouldn't be affected by the sister if there's just a chalitza. Damar Shlok is Kanshan Rebbe. Rebbe taught us in a Mishnah, Achois Gerusha is Mederaisa. To marry the sister of a person you gave a divorce to is also Mederaisa, and Kiddushin will not take effect. Machois Chalutza, but the sister of somebody you gave a chalitza to, the Kiddushin would take effect, because the Isser to marry Achois Chalutza is only Midivrei from only Midrabanan. So everybody knows Kiddushin would take effect. So you don't need miyan to show that the Chalitza is the Rabbanan. Everybody knows that even if it was a Doraisa to get Chalitza, to marry the sister would be only Asa Rabbanan, Kiddushin would take effect. New Gemara and a new story over here. We're going with the opposite case. Listen to this story. Hani Beitrei, there were two men. Okay, one had a boy, a 13-year-old boy, a nice boy, and the other had a girl. They were drinking wine under an arava tree. It's interesting. An arava tree, Rashi says, in Bavel. Or it was like a shady spot. Shokal chad minai, one of them, let's say the father of the boy, took chasa the chamre, the cup of wine, yav lechabre, and gave it to the father of the girl. Amar, he said, Mikache le bratach lebri, take this wine as a free gift, and your daughter should be mukudeshes to my son. Now, the son never made his father, gave his father right to do that. He's over bar mitzvah. He could make these decisions for himself. So, but maybe the son does, a father is always looking after his son. maybe the son would agree to this Kiddushin. Amar Ravina said, in the case, we're always concerned that maybe the father would have liked this. In the case that we're talking about, when the girl, a katana, an 8-year-old girl, accepts Kiddushin, even there's an opinion that says, Shmuel, that we may be concerned that maybe the father would really like the shidduch. He's not saying anything, but maybe he does like the shidduch. But that's only in case of a father with the daughter. We go to Amid Beis. Shemin Isratza ben Layamrina. But the son to agree to his father to do such a thing, to give Kiddushin to a girl, without him giving permission, that we're not going to agree to that. Nobody would agree that a son will allow his father to give Kiddushin to a girl without asking him first. Amar le Rabbanan Ravina, Rabbanan said to Ravina, V'dilma shliach shavia. Maybe it's true. Maybe he sent his father as a messenger to be mekadesh a woman on his behalf. So the Gemara says, and we find that in the Chumash, because Shechem ben Hamor asked his father to just give Kiddushin to Dinah, to get me Dinah, or Shimshon asked his parents to get him a wife. So maybe the boy made his father a shliach. So the Gemara says, no, most children don't have the goal to send their father as a shliach to find a wife for them. So the Gemara says, but maybe the son never sent his father as a shliach, but he wouldn't mind if his father did it on his own. And he would be okay with whatever the father does, because this is a nice thing that the father is doing on his behalf, deciding who he's going to marry. So the Gemara says, really, we never, this is such a remote possibility that the son would agree to his father doing it without asking him. That's impossible. And even in the case when the girl, Ravina, wouldn't even hold like Shmuel, that in the case when the girl accepts it without consulting the father, there's a very remote chance that the father would agree to such a thing. So Shmuel, Ravina, I heard that we don't even hold that Ravina doesn't hold at all of Rav and Shmuel, and he doesn't hold of these chashash for Kedushin. So therefore, we're not worried, the girl is not mukudeshes. Says the Gemara. 2 more stories and that's it. Ahu Gavra de Kodesh Bekisha Diyarka. There was this man that was Mekadesh a Katana, let's say an 8-year-old girl, and he gave her a bunch of vegetables. Let's say he gave her celery. Beshuka in the street, which is not a nice thing to, on way to become engaged to a girl. But you said to me that, maybe the father wouldn't mind. Maybe the father would agree to such a marriage. Amar Ravina says, even according to the opinion that says, they're always concerned, maybe the father would agree to such a marriage, Hani Milich Derek Kovid, only if the guy did it in a respectable way. Aval Derek Bizoin, but he did it in such an embarrassing way, a degrading way. He gave her vegetables, not a ring, and he did it in the middle of the street. No father would agree to have such a son-in-law. Amalei Rav Acha bedifta Ravina. So Rav Acha from Difta said to Ravina, "Bizoyin demai. Why is it degrading? Ibzoyin the Yarka. What made it degrading? He gave her a vegetable. That's what makes it degrading. Ibzoyin the shuka, or he did it in the street. So what's the difference? It's a degrading way. He did both. Nafkemina, I'll give you a difference. The Kodesh Bekaspa, let's say he gave her a ring or money, Beshuka, but he did it in the street. Is it the street that makes it a degrading way, or it's the vegetables? He gave her something not such valuable, something that spoils. But let's say he gave a vegetables, but he gave it in the house, in a private place. So what is it? Is it the street that makes it a degrading place, a degrading type of way to Mikadosh a woman, or is it the fact that he gave raw vegetables as a degrading way to Mikadosh a woman? Amalei. So Ravina answered, both. It's both the fact that he did it in the street and the fact that he gave her something that spoils, or vegetables that spoils, that makes it in a very degrading manner, and therefore that's why Ravina gave his opinion and said, "Look, I don't think anybody would say that the father would be okay to have such a son-in-law who right from the day one he's mikadosh her in a very degrading manner." Finally, here's the last story. Hahu the Amar Lekrivai. The man said, I want this guy to, I want my boy to, they had an argument, okay, a girl. They both had a husband and wife had a daughter, and he's saying, I want her to marry my relatives. The Amra, and the wife is saying, Lekriva, I want her to marry my relatives. Kafte, she was a strong wife. The Amala, so the husband said, okay, to have a Lekriva, our daughter will marry your relatives. So they made a party. The Achli V'Shasi, as they were eating and drinking, Asa Kravi, the husband's relatives came to the party. Be'igra, and they came to the attic. Bekitchen, they gave her Kiddushin. So now, they gave her Kiddushin. Maybe the husband changed his mind and was okay now that this girl is ending up marrying somebody from his family. Amar Abai said, Ksiv Sheir Yisrael Yasa Avla V'Yidabru Chazab. The remnants of the Jewish people, even the worst, the survivors of the Jewish people, once they give their word, they don't change their mind. They don't speak false. And since he gave his word to his wife that he's going to agree to marry their daughter off to her relatives, we're not worried that maybe he changed her mind now that she was Mekabel Kedushim in the attic from his relatives. Rava says, I have another reason why it's not a good engagement to his relatives in the attic, because he already paid for a whole meal over here as if she was going to get engaged to her relatives. And Chazaka, we have an assumption, person doesn't work and spend money to create a whole meal and then throw it and lose it, because the whole point of the meal was that she was getting engaged to her relatives. Now he's going to lose it by getting engaged to his relatives in the attic. So certainly he doesn't want that engagement. My benai, what would be the difference between Abai and Rava? Let's say they didn't have a meal. So according to Rava, then we would be concerned that he agreed to the marriage to his relatives in the attic because he's not losing anything. He didn't spend money on a meal. According to Abaya, but at the end of the day, he's changing his agreement with his wife, and therefore, once he agreed that he's going to marry her off to her relatives. We certainly will not. He certainly, a Jew, will never change his mind and agree that she should be married to his relatives. So Abaye says, in that case, even if he didn't make a meal, you're not choishish for the kedushin of that was done in the attic to his relatives.